at the time, I couldn't do nothing about it.
October 22nd, 1968. Charles Holt was 19 at the time, living in an institution for boys in Butner, North Carolina, when his life was drastically changed, without his consent.
They sent me to Rex Hospital, and then they just pushed me in a room and just gave me some kind of gas. I just went off to sleep. Then when I woke up from it, I noticed something was wrong, and they told me what they'd done, and I wasn't a happy camper.
What they had done was surgery, a vasectomy to make him sterile. But why? It turns out the order came from the state, which said he was feeble-minded and unworthy of having children.
I want to be out to be just like any other young man, to try to have a family and have some kids that I could call my own, but it didn't happen that way.
Charles Holt wasn't alone. In fact, his story is only one representing a shameful chapter in American history. From 1907 through the 1970s, more than 60,000 Americans were sterilized because they had, quote, unfit human traits. It was called eugenics. The goal? Breed out those considered to be a burden on the rest of society and make, quote, better human beings tomorrow. 33 states had eugenics programs at one time or another, supported by some of the nation's most respected doctors and social workers. Even the Supreme Court approved it. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote in one 1927 case, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. In North Carolina, anyone, a parent, a teacher, a neighbor, could ask the state eugenics board to have someone sterilized. Some victims were developmentally disabled, living in institutions. Records show others were living at home, forced to go under the surgeon's knife because they were paupers, or because they were blind or deaf or had syphilis.
You could be sterilized if you were sexually promiscuous.
Or if you were paralyzed or not physically attractive, they have a skin disorder, this person's not fit to reproduce.
The state of North Carolina has tasked Charmaine Fuller Cooper to uncover this frightening past.
The first time last year that I actually had to read an actual eugenics board record of an individual patient case file, I literally sat at my desk and cried for about 15 minutes.
Her research shows about 7,600 people in North Carolina were sterilized. Procedures here continued into the 1970s, well after many states had stopped, so it's estimated about 2,000 victims are still alive. In later years, the focus targeted women on welfare, many of whom were African American. North Carolina has become the only state to take steps to compensate victims. For nearly 10 years, the state legislature has written reports, submitted bills, even heard testimony from victims.
I wouldn't have mind having me a daughter, maybe 2, maybe 3. The state need to award us, because we got to carry on.
But so far, these victims have received nothing more than apologies from Governor Bev Perdue.
I just came here as a woman, as a mama, and as a grandmama, and as governor of the state, quite frankly, to tell you it was wrong.
Compensating victims could cost tens of millions of dollars during a time of budget cuts. State legislators, like Representative Ruth Samuelson, are worried about money.
We had to set priorities, things like, do we compensate eugenics victims or do we put classroom teachers in place? We had to make choices.
Is it possible these victims will, in the end, walk away with nothing?
That is a possibility if we don't have legislators who are willing to stand up for the victims.
Charles Holt knows he may never see a dime.
So the state of North Carolina has said they're sorry. Is that enough?
No.
What more do they need to do?
I think they should give us some compensation off of it.
2012 could be the year the legislature acts. Charles Holt holds out hope for an award he says will fit the crime done to him more than 4 decades ago.
What's just horrible is they did this to person after person after person.
Yes, ma'am. It's real. It's just disgusting.
Elizabeth Cohen, CNN, Linwood, North Carolina.